Dear friends, on August 15, we are celebrating the solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary into heaven. This is one of the youngest dogma in the Church, and this year we are celebrating the Feast of Assumption on a Sunday. A few years after the Second World War, Pope Pius XII declared the dogma of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary into heaven. We do not find many evidences about the Assumption of Our Lady in the Holy Scriptures. However, there are apocryphal writings about the Dormition of Our Lady. In the Eastern churches, the feast of the Dormition of Our Lady was celebrated from the early centuries onwards, and later this feast was also adapted into the Western churches. In the Dormition of Our Lady, the Church believed that while sleeping, Our Lady was taken into heaven with her body and soul. Thus, she did not taste death. There are many reasons to believe that Our Lady did not die, that she was taken with her body and soul into heaven. As we read in the letter of St. Paul, first letter of St. Paul to Corinthians, that the death entered into humanity as a punishment for sins. The death is a consequence of sin. And Our Lady did not experience any kind of sin. She was born without original sin. And also throughout her life, she did not commit any sin. Therefore, it is worthy for her to experience the glory of heaven without seeing death, that her body is taken directly into heaven without tasting death. In the Bible, we read that there were few just people who did not die, who were also taken into heaven without tasting death. In the book of Genesis, we read Enoch was taken into heaven without tasting death. He was a just man. Also in the book of Kings, we read prophet Elijah was taken into heaven in a chariot by our Lord. Our Lady from the beginning was full of grace. Thus, Angel Gabriel addressed her, "Hail, full of grace." She was without original sin. Jesus also said that those who do the will of God are my mother, brother, and sister. Our Lady always did the will of the Lord. She accepted the will of the Lord to become the mother of His incarnated Word. She also did the will of God throughout her life. Jesus had entrusted her as mother of all of us. Thus, after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, Our Lady continued to be with the early church, strengthened and encouraged them in their difficulties. So Mary is in every sense worthy to experience this honor, this privilege from our Lord to be taken without death directly into heaven with her body and soul. If Mary experienced death, then that would indicate that Satan had dominion over her, because death came through as a punishment of sin. So Mary did not experience death. We are happy to celebrate this feast because one member from the humanity is taken directly into heaven without tasting death. We do believe that in our creed that resurrection of our bodies, after our death, in the resurrection, our bodies will be also transformed and it will be taken into heaven. Mary always intercedes for us, and she is a model for us. If we too, like Mary, live according to the commandment of God, if we follow the will of God in our life, if we live like Mary, we too will be given such great privilege of being with the Lord. And we believe that what God has realized in Our Lady will be also granted to us after our death. We will be given also that blissful place to be with the Lord, with Our Lady. On this feast day, let us seek the intercession of Our Lady to live our life worthy of our call. God bless you and wish you all the feast of the Assumption of Our Lady.